Okay, so after the last chapter of One Punch Man, which was chapter 168, I'm sure a lot of people are asking whether or not this is the end of the One Punch Man Monster Association arc. And as you can tell by the title, that's what we're going to be talking about in this video. We're going to be talking about whether or not chapter 169 of One Punch Man, which is the next chapter of One Punch Man, is going to be the official end of the Monster Association arc. And if you guys didn't know, the next arc that we're going to be going into, well, if the manga is following directly by the webcomic, is the Neo Heroes arc. But of course, before we get into all that good stuff, make sure you leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you're new, because if you can't already tell, I post a lot of One Punch Man content. So if you like One Punch Man, this place is definitely for you. Of course, you don't have to if you don't want to, but apart from that, let's get into the video because it's quite a bit to talk about in this one. Now, starting off with what happened in the last chapter, very brief summary. So last chapter pretty much saw that Saitama and Garou return from Io, the moon where they got sent to after their serious punch squared, and they got back to Earth. And Garou saw Tario dead and he regretted what he's done, and he basically taught Saitama time travel. And we saw that Garou did die in this alternate dimension that they were in, and he got turned into salt, which from what I've heard has some religious meaning behind it. But of course, we see that Saitama time travels and he goes to the point where Garou just turned into Cosmic Fear Garou and ends the fight there and then. And the reason why that fight the reason it ended so quickly is because Saitama's strength is different to the strength that he was at the time, if that makes sense. Saitama is a lot stronger. Well, the time travel Saitama is a lot stronger than the original Saitama from that timeline. And after Saitama merged with the the time travel Saitama and the Saitama from the new timeline, they merged together and they became one Saitama. And we saw that Genos at the end kind of just drove into Saitama's stomach as a bit of comedic relief, because there's now two cores, which is also pretty important to note, because I'm pretty sure that's gonna mean like a huge upgrade for Genos, but we can leave that for a different video. But now, what I think could happen in the next chapter, or well, before I start getting into all of that, do I think this is the end of the Monster Association arc? And that is a really hard question to answer, but I will say no, because there's still some stuff we have to go over. And the biggest thing I'm pretty sure webcomic readers know is Fubuki and Psychos, and I think this is a pretty good time to let that play out, because now that Saitama versus Garou is finished, there's not really any time to shift away from the hype, because that's something I was really scared of. I was scared that we're gonna shift our attention away from the big fight and go to Fubuki versus Psychos. And I'm sure a lot of people are also thinking that, but now we can kind of have a rest of mind, and maybe we can maybe this is more of the best time for it to happen, in my opinion. I feel like if Psychos versus Fubuki was to happen in the next chapter, I genuinely wouldn't mind, because it's a good way to wrap up the arc, since their altercation is pretty important for the overall plot of the story, in my opinion. But of course, that's something I definitely think could happen in the next chapter, and I'm sure that's what a lot of people are predicting as well, because if that's not included, I'm sure it will be included at one point. Maybe there's going to be a little bit of I don't want to call it filler, but a bit of a transition arc into the Neo Heroes arc. I'm pretty sure that's the same thing that happened in the webcomic. I'm not too sure if we went straight into the Neo Heroes arc. I'm pretty sure there was a bit of a buffering period for us to kind of assimilate to this new how do I say this, a bit of a new atmosphere, because the Monster Association arc is very different to the Neo Heroes arc. So it's a good way to kind of just get us used to the regular One Punch Man world again, if that makes any sense. And I would personally prefer that, for us to have a bit of a mini transition arc, maybe that lasts 5 chapters or 3 chapters even. But anyway, as I said before, I'm not too sure if this is going to be the end of the Monster Association arc. I think we have another 2-3 chapters left before we can officially say this is the end of the Monster Association arc, because in my opinion, if the next chapter just ends just there and then, unless it's a really long chapter, then maybe that's more understandable. But if they just kind of just end the arc there, it would feel pretty abrupt, in my opinion, since we still haven't figured everything out yet. The heroes at the moment, are probably a bit confused as to what's happened with Saitama just coming out of nowhere and defeating this huge figure Garou. There's going to be a lot of questions that are going to be being thrown around, so I'm sure that's going to also be answered in the next chapter. Hopefully 169 is going to be a bit of a wrap up chapter to the Saitama versus Garou stuff. I'm pretty sure that's going to be like the end of us talking about Saitama versus Garou. We're going to see like, you know, Garou kind of, I guess, go off. I'm pretty sure Garou's not going to be killed here. It's going to be similar to the webcomic where Garou kind of just leaves. He's not like arrested or anything. He just becomes Jobber Garou. And we're probably going to see Jobber Garou in the Neo Heroes arc. If we don't, it will be pretty surprising because, you know, Garou is kind of like a fan favorite character. So I'm sure we will see him eventually. For those who think like, you know, Garou is going to die, don't worry. He's not going to die. There's a reason why we had to time travel because, you know, it was kind of a good way to, I guess, kill Garou off, but at the same time not kill Garou, if that makes any sense. Because we see in the previous reality, Garou did get turned into salt, which, you know, it means he is dead. But since we've now time traveled, I guess it's a good way to kind of, I guess, you know, have some consequences, but at the same time not really have consequences. I talked about all of this in my time travel One Punch Man video that I did like a couple of days ago. That video might seem a bit negative, but, you know, I personally don't think it was completely negative. I did, you know, say some pros and cons about the time traveling stuff, and overall I don't really mind. Time travel is not the worst thing that could happen. And I mean, when you look at it back again, all the heroes were dead on Earth, so it only makes sense to do a time travel, and I guess it was done in the best way possible. It wasn't done in a bad way. I personally just don't like the whole concept of time travel. It's just not the best thing to have in your series, in my opinion. But One Punch Man, of course, it doesn't do it badly. I just think maybe it just shouldn't have been included in the first place. Just my personal opinion. You don't have to agree with me. But overall, I will say I did enjoy the Garou versus Saitama fight. I did make a video about why the Garou versus Saitama fight will be way better than the webcomic, because a lot of people were really doubting, you know, how well the fight was going to go after they saw like this monster form of Garou, and especially after like the I'm pretty sure, was it chapter 167 or chapter 168 or something? No, actually it was chapter 165, I think, where like we got the whole Saitama and Garou speaking in our huts. Like we saw them sitting opposite each other. Everyone thought, oh, this was the end of the arc, and everyone was really, you know, questioning whether or not they really like this fight anymore. And obviously after the redraw, everyone absolutely loved it. So I mean, I personally did prefer the redraw, but maybe some people prefer the original stuff. But that's pretty much all I have to say for this video. If you like the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. If you don't want to, you don't have to. But apart from that, I will see you in my next video.